If you've ever walked into a room and felt, well, off, this will show you why. Whether you're a coach, a healer, a tarot intuit, or just trying to navigate everyday relationships without losing your center, this mystic persona reading reveals the shadow dynamics that are influencing you without your permission. Now, today's reading reveals the 5 most common shadow personas people are stuck in and how to protect your energy, hold your power, and decode the truth underneath their chaos. Now, this is not tarot, this is not therapy, this is a decoding system, one that reads the energies and personas you and the people around you are operating unconsciously from. Let's jump right in. If someone in your life feels foggy, emotionally unclear, or manipulative, they're likely in the shadow of the haze. They speak in riddles and not necessarily the truth. Now, it's not about decoding them. Embody the herald. Now, asking very clear, direct questions and really the lucidity truly becomes your guide. Really, clarity is the cure here. And please, if this reading is resonating with you, please like, comment, subscribe. It really helps the message reach those who may not even know what they're feeling isn't theirs. So let's really dive into the haze and this haze shadow. So for an example, if we really talk about business aspect, right? You're in a team meeting, a colleague keeps talking in vague, lofty terms. They say things like, we just need to be more aligned and elevate the synergy, but really can't explain what tasks need to be done or what really the goal is. Every time you ask for specifics, they deflect, they shift to another abstract point. So really your response in this is really moving into that herald plus also the lucidity. So embodying the herald, ask, what exactly does aligned look for you? Now, what are the next 3 action steps we're each responsible for by Friday? And so clarity is really your sword. Do not try to decode the haze, just be direct. So really, lucidity says, if they can't name it, they can't own it. So let's talk about if this is a personal. So are you in particular falling into the shade? So if maybe if you've been procrastinating on launching something important, maybe a website, a video, a new offer, moving, and then when asked why, how you respond is, I'm still figuring it out. It doesn't feel ready yet, but deep down you're scared of clarity because clarity really means commitment and vulnerability. So how do we move out of this? If we move to, really the herald and lucidity, you really speak your fear out loud and name it. I'm afraid to launch because I'm worried it won't be received well. Then ask yourself, what's one thing I can finish today that brings this idea into form? So that's really the herald. Lucidity isn't perfection. It is truth in motion. Now, let's say, you're in a relationship and we want to really talk about how you move if, a romantic or a very close relationship, maybe in the haze shadow. So you've noticed your partner maybe avoids answering questions directly. So you ask, how are you really feeling? They respond with, I don't know. I'm just tired lately. It's been just a lot. But the energy isn't matching the words. Something is off. So how you would respond to a haze in a relationship is really pulling again the herald and the lucidity. So rather than pushing or trying to decode, anchor in clarity. So something in the terms of like what a herald would say is, I care about you and I want to understand, but I do need clear communication. What's really going on? If they continue to deflect, hold your center. If you're not ready to be clear, I'll step back until we can have a real conversation. You're not here to read the riddles. You're here to build reality. really disconnection and confusion, that's when we know we're in the shadow persona, the haze. Now, really the core persona to really embody if we're feeling that haze is, like we were talking about, is that herald. And, sometimes overwhelming complexity and hidden motives cloud that communication and trust, which really moves us into that haze. So transformation path. So it's recognizing when subtlety becomes ambiguity. Use storytelling with intention, not misdirection. So leading with really emotional clarity rather than mystique. So some actionable steps that you can take right away is practice just clarity and intentional transparency, simplifying your message without dumbing it down. And then really ask, is this making others feel more empowered or more confused? So more empowered, more confused. Now, if we jump into the next shadow that really creates this kind of chaos, I'm gonna move this to the side so we still have that. It's really the marauder. The marauder is the marauder around you. So how do you know if the marauder's around you? So if they feel aggressive, competitive, or controlling, they're in the marauder shadow. So what's your job? Do not fight fire with fire. Be the gladiator with purpose. So the gladiator really models that unity. Collaboration really is your armor. So let's talk about maybe a business conflict. So the marauder shadow, pops up. And maybe you're in a brainstorming session and one team member is really dominating the conversation. They interrupt others, shoot down every idea but their own. And, they seem more focused on winning the meeting as opposed to actually solving the problem. So they say things like, that's not going to work. Let's just do it my way and let's just move on. So your response, again, no fire with fire, but it's not challenging their dominance head on. It would only escalate the shadow. So something calmly, I appreciate your confidence. I'd really like to hear the full range of ideas before we really commit. The best solution often comes from collaboration. And why that works. So you're really modeling that unity without backing down. The gladiator isn't all about fighting for ego. They fight for alignment. So let's say, how do you really understand and know that you personally are stepping into the marauder? So really, are you overfunctioning or are you burning out? And that's a lot of how we can tell that we're in the marauder shadow. So maybe you've been working nonstop, micromanaging, taking over projects because you just don't trust others to get it right. And some justifications that we can say to ourselves is, if I don't control this, it'll all fall apart. So how we can move out of the marauder into this gladiator is really is pausing and asking yourself, am I fighting for excellence or am I just fighting because I just don't feel safe letting go? So then delegate intentionally. I trust you with this. Let's check in at every key milestone, but I'm handing over the reins. So why does this work? So the gladiator doesn't really carry the whole battle alone. They build teams who can fight beside them. So let's talk about, all right, if you're in a relationship and the individual is a marauder, your partner starts maybe to dominate decision-making. They get irritated when you voice a different opinion. Every conversation becomes a more tug of war over who's right. And how we respond to a marauder if it's more in that relationship space is, again, the gladiator. So say clearly, this isn't about who wins. It's about what we're building together. This is about you inviting unity. So, hey, let's slow down and name real need underneath. What are we both trying to protect? So typically it comes into, you're really trying to protect something here, but if you're on the same team, it's together. So why does this work? So gladiators do not react to chaos. They anchor in clarity and extend strength as an invitation, not a weapon. So really in all cases that we've lined out is really not fighting fire with fire. The marauder always wants a war. If you're offering something, like collaboration with backbone, unity with direction, that's really about the gladiator who fights for something greater than just control. So let's talk about, okay, if isolation and ruthlessness, competition, that's really where the marauder lands, right? And their problem is really relentless ambition, individualism, they erode collaboration, they burn out the collective, and really to transform or go into that transformational path is shifting from I win alone to I win together. So rebuilding broken alliances is number one. And how you do that is really, through transparency, shared efforts, maybe inviting others into the process of collaboration to build legacy, shared victories, and credit generously. So maybe ask, where am I holding on to control instead of trusting others? So that goes into another one of these shadows that can be running around creating chaos in our world, the Bastion. This one's always a fun one. So if they're emotionally locked down or rigid, they're stuck in the Bastion. We're seeing a lot of this. Embody really how to get out of this and how to move away from the Bastion is through the Sential Knight. So the Sential Knight speaks gently, but doesn't bend. They really let flexibility be more of their quiet revolution. Now, the Oracle that falls really in line with this is also the Ethereal. So the Ethereal is really inclusive leadership, really shows the way. So let's give some examples on this and sort of start with business. So maybe stubborn leadership, closed system. So maybe you propose a new idea or maybe a system in a meeting, and a senior leader shuts it down immediately. And something maybe like, we've always done it this way. There's no reason to change what's already working. I think we have heard a lot of that lately. They're not open to, they're just not open. They're defending their fortress. But how you can respond is really a blend between the Sential Knight and the Ethereal. So I respect the foundation we've built. This isn't about erasing the past. It's about preparing for the future. Would you be open to a small experiment before we discuss it? Now, why does this work? Because you stay grounded, you stay respectful, but you invite flexibility, which is the Ethereal. You're not storming the walls. You're not you're showing there's another gate. Now, let's say it's not in business, and let's say, maybe you're struggling by being the Bastion. So in yourself, it's, maybe self-protection, rigidity. Maybe you've been distant lately, maybe unavailable, guarded. You catch yourself saying things like, it's just easier to do it all myself. I don't want to rely on anyone. You're not cold. You're scared of letting the wrong people in again. So how we can move out of this as a blueprint for ourselves is really, again, through the Sential Knight and the Ethereal. So we ask ourselves, is my independence building strength or reinforcing my walls? So maybe let someone in. So that's the Ethereal. Let someone in, but it's like, you can go into let somebody in, but then if you see yourself, well, I'm just gonna let somebody in just a little bit, just so they don't get all of my defenses down. So be mindful of that. So why does it work? Utilizing the Sential Knight. The Sential Knight doesn't collapse their armor. So meaning they don't just say, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna just give in. They recalibrate it. And that's really to protect what matters while still making room for connection. Now, let's talk about relationship. So if we see somebody maybe unemotionally emotionally unavailable. Your partner maybe shuts down during emotion conversations. Maybe when you ask them how they feel, they respond with, I don't know. Can we just not do this right now? They aren't trying to hurt you. They're overwhelmed by vulnerability. Maybe they haven't practiced. So how you can respond to a partner that may be stuck in a bastion is really, again, Sential Knight and the Aetherial. Instead of pushing, maybe say something in the terms of, I'm not asking for everything, I'm just asking for a little window. Can we start there? Maybe hold the line. I'm here with you, but I won't stay in a room with the door locked. So really, why does this work? You're offering maybe a gentle structure, not retreating, not demanding, just really holding the space, calm, strength. And that's really the Sential's true gift that they embody. So what is the takeaway from this entire spread, this particular persona? So the Bastion is not a villain. It's really a wounded, Sential Knight. And they've really forgotten how to rest and how to trust, right? And the Sential Knight doesn't shatter walls. They open doors with presence. Now, the Aetherial really reminds you that leadership isn't loud, it's steady. And sometimes the strongest revolution is really a soft, I'm still here. So the rigidity and inflexibility of the Bastion really is the problem. Mission obsession, closed off thing, really strangling adaptability and growth. So how do we do this transformational path? How do we embrace this flexibility as a form of strength? Really open to different viewpoints without losing your purpose. So some actionable steps we can take here is soften the armor. Invite in perspectives before finalizing decisions. So be open to course correction without losing sight of the mission. That is another persona that can get really locked in that chaos, and sometimes we can get really overwhelmed with that kind of persona around us. So, the vampire. Do you feel drained after every conversation? You've met a vampire. They feed off of energy and really embodying the mystic rogue, because the mystic rogue does not absorb. They more mirror. And then also what we call the shadow light reminds us that transparency is really the protection here. So kind of a business example here is that maybe there's an energy draining colleague or client. So every time maybe you hop on a Zoom call or meet with a certain coworker or client, you leave exhausted. They vent, they spiral, they overshare, or constantly create chaos for you to fix. Now, it's like I just don't know what to do. Can you take a look at this real quick? Sorry, I'm just drowning right now. They're not collaborating, they're feeding. So how do you respond to a vampire? This is really with the Mystic Rogue and the Shadow Light. So instead of absorbing their storm and creating it your own, it's mirror their energy back with clarity. So I hear you. What would help you move forward with this? Or another example would be, it sounds like you're overwhelmed. Can you name one thing you're committed to shifting today? So this pushes it back on them as opposed to you're owning it and you're trying to fix them, because that's not the objective. So the Mystic Rogue does not overfunction and they do not give the answers. They reflect. And then the Shadow Light whispers, you don't owe them your bandwidth to prove your value. So maybe we are becoming a vampire within our own personal relationships, but maybe we're becoming the vampire. So how you, maybe it's subtle energy drain, but really you realize you're constantly on call for others, checking in over texting, holding space, but your own energy is tanking. You tell yourself, well, I just want to be supportive, but deep down it feels like you're disappearing in the process. So how you can respond to really move out of this vampire space is by really asking yourself, am I giving because I want to, or because I feel like I have to. Then reclaim your energetic boundaries, which Mystic Rogue is very good at doing. I care about you, but I need time to reset before I can show up well again. So why does it work becoming the Mystic Rogue? The Mystic Rogue is not selfish. They're sovereign. They understand that leaking energy serves absolutely no one. So let's talk about vampires in relationships. Really emotionally dependent. That's how you can tell. So maybe you have a friend or a partner who relies on you for every emotional regulation. They say things like, I just feel better when I talk to you. You're the only one that understands me. It sounds sweet until you realize you're the lifeline and they're never refilling you. So how do you respond to a vampire? So it's really, I'm honored you trust me. Let's start with that, right? But I cannot be the only one holding the emotional weight. What are you doing maybe to take care of yourself? Or what self-care are you doing? Why does this work? So holding up a mirror, which funny, right? Holding up a mirror to them of what are they doing for themselves, because vampires can't look in the mirror. So holding up the mirror, not the burden. So the shadow light really teaches us transparency is protection. So if they resist clarity, they're not ready for reciprocity. So you're not cold for pulling back. You're wise for not offering what they refuse to generate in themselves. So the Mystic Rogue really walks the line between compassion and clarity. They see the need, but they do not absorb it. And the shadow light reminds you of empathy without boundaries isn't love, it's self-abandonment. So really the vampire problem really is this hidden power plays, the emotional manipulation, the draining relationships, the disempowerment of the group, and how do we transform and have that transformational path, replace the secrecy with support and guidance. Use your intuition to uplift and not control. So some of these actionable steps is practicing conscious influence, reveal intentions clearly, empower others to think and decide for themselves. So maybe something to ask yourself is, am I feeding off others' energy or feeding their growth? Now, I know there's a lot of these, but there's a lot of different kind of personality parts that create these kind of chaoses in our life if we allow them to. So the vampire is one that will only come in again if you let them in. So the hollow flame is another really great one. So really, some people burn out while they're trying to really do it all. That's the hollow flame. They do not need your requests. They need your presence. So how do we do this? We embody the heart fire, because we're leading with really that self-care and care, not expectation. Now, the ember flame, so this is, kind of the shadow, the core, and the oracle. So the ember flame really teaches us that sustainable passion. So for an example, let's take business. Now, if you notice maybe a coworker or employee that's always first maybe to log in and they're last to leave, they say yes to everything, but their eyes are dull and they're really empty. Their creativity is fading, but they still respond to every Slack message with, got it, I'll take care of it. They're not thriving, they're fading. Now, the hollow flame really burns hard, but not bright. So how do you respond to a hollow flame? So the heart fire and the ember flame, don't give them more, give them permission to pause. So try this. You don't have to carry it all. What can we take off your plate? If you weren't trying to prove anything, what would you choose to give your energy to? Now, why does this work? The heart fire does not lead with demand. They lead with really presence right? And the Ember Flame reminds us that sustainability passion isn't loud, it is steady. So let's say we are the hollow flame in our own life, if the pressure to be everything is you're pushing yourself to meet every need, be a leader, be reliable, be excellent. You do not need to ask for help. You don't rest. And somewhere in the hustle, your joy got replaced with just survival. You catch yourself of thinking, oh, I'm fine. I just need to push a little more, but your spark is gone. So whisper back, I don't have to be everything to everyone. What ignites me and what's just expectation. So why does the heart fuel, why does the heart fire isn't fueled by pressure. They're fueled by connection. That's where the Ember Flame is so amazing. So a slow burn really reaches farther and sparks and has more heat to it. So let's talk about a hollow flame in a relationship. So caretaking disguised as love, right? Your partner or your close friends really always show up for everyone else, but never for themselves. They remember birthdays, they fix problems, they absorb emotions, but they haven't asked for anything in return for months. They're not cold, they're exhausted. So how to respond to a hollow flame in your relationship is you don't have to keep, yes, again, you do not have to keep giving to be worthy. What do you need from me today? Or maybe something like, you don't have to perform to be loved. So why does this work? You're reminding them that rest is safe in your presence or in just in general, that love isn't earned through over-functioning, that the most powerful light doesn't flare, it glows. So some people are really tired, not because they're weak, but because they've been too strong for too long for everybody else without support. Be the presence they don't have to impress. That's the heart fire's medicine. And that's how the Ember Flame teaches us to lead with longevity, not intensity. So the hollow flame, and the problem really with the hollow flame is the overextension, the constant giving without renewal lead to exhaustion and emotional detachment. So it's about protecting your inner fire through rest and boundaries. Give from overflow, not depletion. So some steps that you can take here is building rhythms of renewal for your week. Say no to what dims your light. And maybe ask yourself, what do I need to do today to keep my flame steady and not scattered? You are not here to fix them. You are here to see clarity. You know what's yours and what never was. So these cards aren't necessarily the future. They are really your compass. And please, if today's message opens something up for you, please subscribe, drop a comment, or share this with someone who always feels too much around others. And if you're ready for a deep initiation where we decode each of these shadows in real life and practice the exact persona shifts to stay sovereign, you'll find that journey waiting on Patreon. Your light was never meant to be dimmed by someone else's shadow.